This is the pawn game again. As you notice, I have my pawns set up on the 2nd rank and the 7th rank, black on the 7th rank and white on the 2nd rank. And this game is the same as the regular pawn game, only we add in other pieces. When you're learning to play chess, the most overwhelming thing is all the pieces and how they move. So I like to add them in gradually and play games where you're moving those pieces so that your brain just remembers how those pieces move. So I like to add in next a bishop. And it doesn't really matter whether you do a light squared bishop or a dark squared bishop. But what I do is I allow the students to pick one bishop. So the person playing black will pick their bishop and they will decide whether they want it to be the bishop that's on the light squares on the C file or the C here, or the dark square bishop on the F. And I let them choose. So let's say this person's going to choose it to be there. And then I let white choose too. And they take their bishop and they place it wherever, either in its position on C or on F. And I will teach the students that bishops move diagonally. They can't jump from a dark square to a light square and move diagonally. They have to stay on their diagonal. And bishops capture also on the diagonal. So any opposing piece that's in their way, they capture and they stop where that opposing piece is. So if this bishop wanted to move, it could move as many squares as it wants, either always forward or backwards, until it gets to another piece that might be in its way. So for example, this bishop can move one square. This is where it started. So it can move one square. It can choose to move 2 squares. It can choose to move 3 squares. It can choose to move 4 squares. If it chooses to move all the way to here, to this dark colored square, it would capture this piece and stop. Now, for example, I'm just going to move a piece to the middle of the board, like here. My bishop does not move through pieces. So once it would hit this piece, it would need to stop, because that's where the capture is. The capture is the end of the turn. So it would not be allowed to keep going. And they always move in one direction at a time. So you can't move forward and then switch to another direction and move on that other diagonal. That would be another turn. You have to move in one direction at a time. So no zigzagging bishops around, okay? They always move in one direction like that at a time. So when we do the pawn game with the bishop, we just add a bishop with the pawn game, and we play it like normal. The first person to get a pawn to the other end wins. And once a pawn makes it to the back row, it's safe. You can't capture it. So if we were playing like this, and then I might choose to move him out, and then like this maybe, and then now look, I can capture on this diagonal, and then maybe they want to come all the way out here, and then you just keep playing just like this, so that way your students get used to using their bishops.